Hello everyone and welcome back to Chit Chat with Cass. So today I'll be talking all about the paranormal or supernatural, at least the things that I like about these mysterious topics or what I've been interested in for decades now. Thank you to everyone that actually voted on this episode topic. If you would like to take part in future votes or polls, be sure to follow me on social media. And don't worry, if you voted for the other topic, it will be featured in an upcoming episode. So, the supernatural or paranormal. So paranormal is denoting events of the phenomenon such as telekinesis or clairvoyance that are beyond the scope of normal scientific understanding. Supernatural, of a manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. So I have been interested or fascinated by the paranormal or supernatural for the whole of my life. I couldn't say how old I was when I first got into these sort of topics, but it's been forever. Just always kind of been there, I suppose. I had to be 5 or 6 when I really started getting into paranormal topics. Yeah, I was pretty young. I've always found the paranormal or supernatural topics to just be super interesting. I wouldn't say I was a kid that really got scared from these sort of things. Instead, I wanted to learn more, you could say. I watched a lot of horror movies pretty young and found them interesting instead of scary. Perhaps I was an odd duck. I'm still an odd child. But yeah, they didn't really scare me. I was just more interested. I wanted to learn more and find out more about these different topics. I will say that one of my first memories looking into these different topics was when the internet was new, back when it made that horrible sound to sign in online and it screwed up your calls coming in and all that jazz, all the 90s. So I was getting into looking around on sites and seeing how this whole internet thing worked. A big site I was always on was the Art Bell website. Now, if you don't know who Art Bell was, he was an American broadcaster, and he founded probably one of the biggest paranormal-themed radio programs. It was played across the whole United States and Canada. My dad would listen to his show, and in turn, I discovered him and loved going to his website. Art Bell did actually just die on April 13th of this year, so we'll just go ahead and dedicate this episode to him. So on his website, there was of course a lot of information, but the section I loved was the photographs. I'm a lifelong photographer, guys, so photos always interest me. But in the world of paranormal or supernatural, photos and videos fascinate me. So there is little Cassie looking at these photos on the slow-ass internet. I believe there was different categories on the site as well, like ghost photos, alien photos, and so on. But I found them all super interesting. I always wanted to find a photo that really impressed me or truly freaked me out because, as I said, not many things fully scared me. Sure, I thought the penguin from Batman Returns was scary as hell, and the child snatcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang could go and fuck off, but evidence of the paranormal? Bring it on. I was ready for it. Give me all the evidence, all the photos, videos, recordings, and so on. Now, when I looked at these photos, even back then as just a kid, I was critical of the evidence. Don't get me wrong, I loved it all and was like, yes, look at this ghost photo. But I was still critical. And that is very true today. I'm still the same way. Working with photography, video work, and recordings has made me even more picky when footage is released. Yes, I want there to be evidence, but I will pick it apart if I think it can be easily recreated, easily faked, hoaxed, or if there is a different explanation for what was caught on camera. These days, I'm sometimes a go-to for some of my family members when they see something online or on a show. For example, we've watched the show Fact or Faked, where they look into different paranormal or supernatural cases, unexplained things basically. Most of the time while watching the episode, I share my ideas of how it was created, how it was filmed or set up with my family, and then we wait and see if I'm right. And I'm happy to say that I've been correct many times. If a ghost video is shot down a hallway, perfectly framed, and sitting on a tripod, it would take only a few short minutes to film the empty hallway, and then in a separate shot, the fake ghost, and in editing, overlay the images together, and it creates that ghostly image. I know these tricks, so yes, I can be very picky of different released footage. But I like my superpower of finding fake parts or fake photos. I don't have a real power, you see, so we'll just settle for this one. I'm kind of making myself out to be a big skeptic, and I would say yes and no. I love paranormal and supernatural things. I want to believe in so many of these things. I just find them so fascinating. But I'm also not going to be gullible enough to think that every photo or video evidence is real. And I think that is a good mindset to have, especially when you're looking at things like paranormal or supernatural topics. When you're investigating anything, really. Don't believe it all. Back it up with evidence, look into it. Have that skepticism so you aren't sucked into like a bullshit lie. And that's how I am with every form of a video, a photo, a recording, any of it. But yeah, Art Bell's site is my first memory of checking out the paranormal or supernatural photos and videos, and eventually that would lead me into other research and finding out more information about the topics that I was interested in. Now, growing up, movies and TV shows also influenced my interest quite a bit, and that was no different in the paranormal world. I was a big fan of Charmed, which started in '98, and even though I think it kind of declined towards the end of its run, it will still remain one of my favorite TV shows. If you don't know what the show is about, it's basically sister witches and them battling warlocks and demons and creatures and all the variety of other things. So, of course, that was right up my alley, and I hate that they are remaking it, but that's a topic for a different podcast. I also love the Disney Channel show So Weird, which started in '99. Back when Disney Channel had a bit of an edge to it, you could say. I really enjoyed this one. Being young, I was like 7 years old, I loved that it was a young girl off investigating these supernatural occurrences, and then she would post them on her websites. Like, please Disney, release So Weird on DVD or Blu-ray or something. I would absolutely love to rewatch this show. I also watched the show Special Unit 2 from 2001. A lot of people haven't heard of it, but of course, the topics it covered made it very interesting for me to watch. You know, a unit that hunts supernatural monsters, so of course, that sounds like me. I also watched shows like Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction from '97. This was another show that introduced me to the idea of question stories, legends, or paranormal, but I still found it super interesting and in turn watched similar shows to it, investigating topics, testing topics, things of that nature. And of course, hundreds of movies. I can't get talking about movies because my movie podcasts are way too long. But like I said, it's safe to say that TV, movies, and even books piqued my interest even further into the paranormal or supernatural world. I know that some people might mention X-Files, and I never really watched that growing up, but as an adult, I actually started binging the series on Netflix, and then they pulled it from streaming, so I have not finished it. Today, I am still very much interested in the paranormal or supernatural. I've even created a bit of a series on my second YouTube channel dedicated to those weird topics, our bizarre and unusual world. So many things can fit into the idea of bizarre or unusual, and I love, love, love researching this stuff. I find it fascinating, and I like sharing it with you guys. So if I can present it to you guys in a video, then that's kind of like merging two of my favorite things into one. Now, at this time of recording this podcast, I have 17 episodes of that series. Some topics that would relate to the paranormal or supernatural are things like Sasquatch, the Banshee, Black-Eyed Children, Bloody Mary, Doppelgangers, La Llorona, the Winchester House, Amityville Horror, La Pascalita, and Roanoke. Just some of the topics I've covered that have that paranormal or supernatural twist to them. I really enjoyed creating that series for you guys and sharing those interests of something crazy or interesting with you as well. Being interested in paranormal or supernatural can easily be a slippery slope to being called insane or crazy, which is fine. Bring it on. I find it fascinating. And like I said, don't believe everything you see or read. Just research, learn more, and have an opinion that isn't based around how many views a ghost video got on YouTube. So, what things do I believe in? God, there's a lot. What do I truly believe in? It's such a loaded question. Looking over the supernatural or paranormal topics, the list could really go on and on. I mean, for what people research, what people believe in, how much exposure they get. So, let's just name a few things I enjoy researching or believe in. How about aliens? I find it a tad ridiculous when people say aliens can't be real. Really? You think that in the whole universe there isn't life elsewhere? Scientifically, to me, that just doesn't make sense. Earth and our solar system here is just like a small little sliver of what is out there. I think there could easily be a variety of species out there somewhere. Are they little green men? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. The universe is just too large to think we are the only life out there. Now, have they made contact with us or made it to Earth? There's a lot of questions there. Obviously, when you look into these topics, you are swarmed with like these alien sightings or ships spotted and things like that. A lot of these videos I really don't care for because it could easily be anything. Or it's a reflection off someone's windshield, or it's something explainable in the sky, or it's a hoax. So I am rather picky with alien sighting videos. But I will say you have some interesting examples that could prove or suggest aliens have made contact with Earth. In 1942, you have the example of Battle Los Angeles, which is a pretty interesting case. If you aren't familiar with it, you should definitely check it out. Basically, an object hovering over Los Angeles, California in February of 1942 was basically shot at and attacked. Some say it was a false alarm during wartime, while other people say it was something more interesting. Some people described it as a dome-shaped object. The Army started firing at this object, but they weren't able to bring it down. It would later be declared as a weather balloon, which I find extremely odd. You're shooting hundreds of rounds at this object and the balloon doesn't come down? Perhaps it's left up to the conspiracy theorists. You have the two sides of this, as you do with most things. Some say people are overreacting, while others think it was a huge government cover-up. I'll include some links to photos from that night in the description. They are very interesting, and if you haven't heard about this, you should definitely look into it. But you do have so many alien sightings or stories. But once again, as I said, don't believe everything you read. Not everything is real, but some of them are very interesting. A lot of people go to Roswell when they think of aliens.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
So I actually just recently heard that radio broadcast from 1947. So it's interesting, and of course highly debated if something truly crashed, if anything was recovered and hidden away, or if it was all nothing at all. UFO supporters or alien enthusiasts are super passionate about this stuff. And while I wouldn't say I'm on that level, I do find it all interesting and easily believe there is life elsewhere in the universe. I actually just joked the other day. I was talking about Area 51 because it's like, everyone thinks it's like the alien capital of our world, right? I said, what if Area 51 is like the most boring base to work at? Here's everyone thinking it has aliens, spacecrafts, and all this secret stuff, when in reality, it's super boring. Wouldn't that be hilarious? I will say footage or proof from the 40s is much more believable to me, considering today it's so easy to fake or edit a spacecraft flying across the sky. I definitely would believe older footage more than something filmed on a cell phone. Let's see. Bigfoot is a big one. No pun intended. Come on, guys, I live in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, I know all about Bigfoot. But besides that, I did actually grow up surrounded by a lot of things relating to Sasquatch and actually know quite a bit about the legend, story, the evidence, or lack of evidence. I actually know a good amount about Bigfoot and have met some pretty big names in the Bigfoot world. I did cover this in my Bizarre and Unusual World series. I shared points to both sides of things, which I think is very important. And I agree and see both sides of things, both points that each side make about Bigfoot. I see all the evidence, if you will, and I take it all in. But I will be the first person to say how ridiculous some people are. And that goes with any sort of paranormal or supernatural topic. Being interested in the idea of Bigfoot, I've watched some of the Finding Bigfoot show, and God, I hate it. You can't tell me you're going out looking for a creature that no one knows if it's out there, and every episode you hear a squatch or you find evidence. I just can't take any of those people seriously, and it's all for the ratings, and it's all just a bunch of bullshit. And then there's some other people as well, especially recently, some people have been blowing up with their evidence or footage. I say quote footage because I think it looks so fake. This going back to me being very picky about things, of course. I can be interested in the idea of Sasquatch, but I'm not going to believe every fake costume or edited video. And for me, so many of the recent evidence looks so fake. The fur, why is it blended out on the edges against the trees? Just to give some examples, really, of how I kind of like pick apart photos. I actually showed someone a photo of a bear in the woods and then this image of Bigfoot in the woods. Now, I'm not saying that these two creatures look alike. I'm just trying to compare the fur, okay? And how it looked so heavily edited. Like, the bear looked natural and you could see where the fur line stopped. And then, like, these more recent Bigfoot photos, it's like everything is blended out. And how can you tell me that's not edited? Hell, I would love to see some footage that truly impressed me and that I didn't pick apart, but it doesn't happen often. It's just how my brain works. When I look at a photo of any sort of paranormal or supernatural thing, I have to pick it apart or see how I could personally edit it, how it could be recreated. That's just how my brain works. And why would footage of a Bigfoot just be staring forward or his damn eyebrow blinking? Those are just some examples of some recent footage that I just don't find impressive at all, but people have been freaking out over. I just don't find it very impressive. So the biggest piece of evidence for Bigfoot is, of course, the Patterson film, and I covered this all in my Sasquatch episode, but the Patterson-Gimlin film was shot in 1967 in Northern California, and is supposed to show a Bigfoot walking beside a creek. Now, bring on the conspiracies, because this one is highly debated as well. It's faked. The whole thing is faked, some people say. Others say it looks real and talk about the fur and the muscle movements. Many people suggest it's a suit, like a monkey suit, and I just don't know about that. So this is the 60s, right? So go to an example. Watch the Planet of the Apes movie from 1968. Those costumes, monkey looks, and effects were like the high tech back then, and the apes look nothing like the Patterson film. The Patterson film fascinates me, and I know it will forever be questioned. People have heavy debates about this film, right? But I just don't think it looks as simple as someone in a suit, especially for the time. The creature, whether it is human or ape or somewhere in between, it looks massive, and the arms are so extremely long, and I kind of feel like that look or effect would require more modern tech than they had in 67. I've heard a lot of people talk about this footage, guys, so maybe I sound crazy. I just don't think it's as simple as a monkey suit. I mean, people even talk about how this creature seems to have boobs. Yep. Welcome to the Bigfoot community, everyone. But yes, Sasquatch or Bigfoot is very interesting to me. It's all very interesting, but at the same time, hit and miss claims for the evidence of this big furry dude. I question everything, don't believe it all, but I find it all fascinating. How about ghosts? I love me some ghosties. So, of course, a lot of the time when people think of paranormal or supernatural, they tend to go towards ghosts. I love ghost-related things. I watch so many ghost shows where people share their stories or experiences, and I love to see if they're, full of shit or if they seem to be honest. Because you can kind of get the feel if someone's, making up a story or they're lying, right? At least I can. Of course, you have the, ghost hunter shows like Ghost Adventures and so on. Well, I have watched that on occasion. I find them to be a bit like Finding Bigfoot. They always find a ghost or they always hear something. It's all about the ratings, of course, and I really don't think there's much truth to it. I'd rather hear about people's experiences. I suppose ghost believers really depend on how you see the afterlife. Is there heaven, a hell, a limbo, something else? Ghost with unfinished business, stuck here, just watching over, guardian angels, all these different ideas or theories on what ghosts are, the hauntings, and so on. Some people tie it to their own religions, or lack of religion in some cases. It's all very complex, and beliefs are quite different as well. It really depends on who you're talking to with how people believe in ghosts. I've just always loved ghost-related things, whether that be ghost stories, legends, haunted locations, or creepy stuff. Every October, the Travel Channel has the countdown list of the top haunted locations, and I absolutely love these shows. And while I've never actually ghost hunted myself or really been to many creepy locations, I do think it would be extremely interesting. But I'm also the type of person that would be constantly thinking in the back of my head, please don't follow me home. Please just don't follow me home. And of course, bring me any ghost, spirit, or haunted related movie and I'll give it a watch, or give me a creepy location to research and I'll totally be into it. I just really enjoy the idea of ghosts. If I ever do go ghost hunting, which I doubt I will ever call it that, how about if I go for a tour of a haunted location or I go visit a haunted location, I will for sure vlog it for you guys because that sounds like a lot of fun. But like I said, ghosty, please don't follow me home. I would love to visit the Queen Mary ship in Long Beach, California, although I may have a panic attack because I have this weird thing about boats, but I hear such creepy stories from that place, and I would love to see if I experienced anything or if I recorded anything, things of that nature. Let's see, same goes for the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. I mean, it did inspire Stephen King to write The Shining, so, might be interesting to visit there. And it also looks beautiful, so why not travel there someday? I know there are various asylums around this country, but hell, I don't know if I want to go into that. That creeps me out. It's not exactly good vibes in a place like that. And can you imagine if an asylum ghost followed you home? I'm just not into that idea. Oh, I would also love to visit the Winchester house. If I happen to see or feel a ghost, sure, that's awesome. But just in general, I really want to see that house. If you're not familiar, Sarah Winchester kept adding on to this home to confuse ghosts and keep her hidden from the spirits. It's just a very interesting location, and I would love to visit it someday. And then there are some places in the Pacific Northwest that are supposedly haunted as well. I've been to a few of them, but of course I'd love to go visit more. I actually did a video about some of these locations a few years back. Let's see, I covered the Bandage Man on Highway 101 near Cannon Beach, Oregon. Roach Harbor Mausoleum in Washington, Hatley Castle in British Columbia, Piddock Mansion in Portland, Oregon, the Black Diamond Cemetery in Washington, Heceta Head Lighthouse in Florence, Oregon, Kells Irish Club in Seattle, Washington, Rose Bay Cemetery in British Columbia, Cathedral Park in St. John's, Oregon, and Campbell House in Spokane, Washington. It's always very interesting for me to research local ghost stories or local haunted legends as well, because it's obviously much closer to home, and I could perhaps more realistically visit some of these said-to-be haunted locations one day. But what can I say? I like ghosts and paranormal stuff. So what else am I interested in? I mean, gosh, there's so many supernatural or paranormal topics, legends, stories around the whole world. There's just so many. I love witchy stuff, of course. I always have. It's probably Charm's influence, but not just charmed witches where they have active powers or things like that. I've always been very interested in witch history, whether that be those falsely accused in history, or even the people who say the real witches would have been too smart to get caught. I mean, we also have things like the Wendigo, which I recently mentioned in my bizarre episode about Roanoke. You have things like the Loch Ness Monster or creatures like Nessie. That's part of Scottish folklore. Mermaids also fascinate me, not like the Little Mermaid Ariel or the Splash Mermaid, but the classic tale of sirens and those darker tales. I'm actually watching the show Siren on Freeform, and so far I'm really enjoying it. Or you can even dive further into the supernatural legends where people have paranormal abilities or powers, you could say, like telekinesis, things of that nature. I do find that all very interesting, but haven't done a lot of research on those topics. But I do know that a lot of people relate those abilities to government tests that have been run on people in past decades. Kind of like Stranger Things if you watch it, kind of like how they tested 11. A lot of people relate those things to government testing. Guess it depends on what conspiracy you believe. Let's see, we have things everyone experiences like deja vu or the theories on what it is. Some people have deja vu way worse than others, and some of the theories or ideas are very interesting to look into. Or how about vampires, werewolves, curses, zombies, and other creatures? There are literally so many paranormal topics, I could literally go on and on about them. They all interest me, but I probably have the most knowledge about ghosts and Bigfoot, maybe aliens. Throw some other weird stuff in there, and that's how my brain looks. You could easily even include angels and demons into this, but I feel like that really depends on your religion or what you believe the afterlife is, similar to the ghosts, of course. Some exorcism details I've read about, watched, or learned about is very interesting, but I don't know how to take it all. I'm personally not a religious person, but I clearly believe in ghosts, So I'd like to say there could be a darker side to thing, like a demon, or a lighter side to thing, like an angel. Okay, so I thought I would end this podcast episode with some weird things I've experienced. They are all ghost related. I've never seen a Sasquatch or been taken away by aliens. So my weird occurrences are pretty low level, nothing crazy scary. I haven't been flown across at a wall, or I haven't been possessed, nothing too extreme, okay? So the first one takes place in a house that has actually been in my family for several decades, multiple generations. So I was there getting ready and putting my makeup on in the bathroom. I had my makeup bag with me sitting in the sink as I used the bathroom mirror to get ready. And for the life of me, I couldn't find my lipstick. I looked through my makeup bag, but nope, nothing, couldn't find it. So I left the room and went to look in my other bag to see if I'd put it there or even in my purse. As I started into the hallway, I heard something fall in the bathroom, and when I turned back, my makeup bag had fallen to the floor, so up out of the sink and onto the floor. The only thing that fell out was the lipstick I was looking for. I'd looked through the whole makeup bag, so I have no idea where it had been hiding, no idea. I joked and told my mom the bathroom was haunted, and she suggested that my great-grandmother was helping me to find my lipstick. So not too scary, right? I'll take the light ghosts or the positive angels around me, that's fine, but don't be bringing any of those asylum ghosts around me, guys. No way. So this next one is a little creepier. This is all about a little girl. Now, I have not seen this little girl or heard her, but there's a lot of weird things that have happened on my street that all seem connected. So this first started when I had a friend over, staying the night, and she had brought her little sister. Throughout the night, her little sister kept staring into my closet, and we didn't really know why. So we ended up asking her what she was staring at, and she said, "I'm looking at the little girl in the closet." That's a creepy thing to be told, okay? The little sister didn't know much about the little girl, if she was nice or mean or why she was there. She was just chilling in my closet, apparently, looking at her. So yeah, just a creepy thought to have at the back of your head that there's a little girl living in your closet. And of course, this is me, as a kid, always into ghosts and supernatural things. So was my friend. So both of us were like, oh my god, holy shit, your closet is haunted. So a few years later, new neighbors moved in, and the mom of the bunch actually came over and asked some questions about the house, the street, and things of that nature. The mom had been dreaming about a little girl walking through their house. And one night she got up, and she believed she was awake because she had started getting ready for work. But anyway, she saw this little girl in their hallway. I think she tried to talk to her, but she only got small answers from the girl. It wasn't a full-on conversation. She, of course, asked, who are you? What do you want? Things like that. So anyway, this mom wanted to know if there had been a little girl in the neighborhood or in her house, or if anything tragic had ever happened. No one had any answers for her. No one knows of a little girl that died or passed away. No one knows anything of that nature. So she didn't really get any answers. But this mom continued to dream and see this little girl throughout their home. So then we have another neighbor that was walking down the street with his son one night. His son was about 4 years old. Anyway, the boy asked his dad what that little girl was doing. The dad was confused and didn't know what he meant. It was dark out, no kids outside, and they were just walking up to their house. So he asked his son what he was talking about, and the little boy said that there was a little girl over there by the light. The dad could not see anything. He didn't see any kids out. He didn't know what his son was talking about. But the boy insisted that he could see a little girl walking across the street in the light. And the boy actually said she shouldn't be out so late without her mommy or daddy. He hasn't seen her again and has no idea who that little girl was. So nothing has happened in recent years, but I have no idea if everyone just has similar stories or if there's a little girl hanging out in everyone's house. Just kind of creepy when you think about it. Those would be my main stories. I did have some creepy stuff that happened at my previous job where things would quite literally fly off the shelf, and that was hella creepy, but that's their problem now, not my problem. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed a bit of my chat about paranormal or supernatural topics. I like weird things or creepy stuff, always have, and this was fun to share with you guys. I always am interested to see if people believe in these sorts of things like I do, but at the same time, as I said, I'm always telling people don't believe everything you see or read. Ghost photos are so easy to edit these days, and people love to make hoaxes. It's hard being so interested in the paranormal stuff, but at the same time having a mind that doesn't believe or is critical of the evidence. Maybe that makes me a better believer, because I don't believe everything I see, and I want to research or, further have that proof. So I'm a believer, but I have skepticism. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Chit Chat with Cass, and I will catch you in the next episode.